So let's kick off this explainer with a really critical question for any enterprise operator listening right now. Do you actually know where your deployed autonomous agents are living and what exactly they're doing at this very second? I mean, it sounds like a simple question, right? But for most organizations, if we're being honest, the answer is a very hesitant maybe.
Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, urgent infrastructure challenge. How on earth do we track and govern enterprise AI agents? We'll see why relying on basic, old-school credentials is a huge operational vulnerability, and how something called the AGTP protocol swoops in to provide a much-needed foundational solution. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by asking where your agents actually are. Look at why current identity models are essentially just name tags, and then explore giving agents a real home. We'll wrap up with the AGTP advantage and how to prepare for future audits. All right, Section 1, where are your agents? The quiet state of enterprise AI. Now, you might be totally confident that your agents are out there doing great work, but let's look at some serious operational unknowns. Are you completely in the dark here? Think about it. Most companies literally cannot answer how many agents are running right now. They don't know where they live on the network, which ones drifted out of scope months ago, or who they're even talking to. And crucially, if a regulator came knocking today, do readable audit trails even exist? Engineering shipped the agents, wired up the integrations, and everyone just kind of moved on because, well, it worked. But those gaps, they are getting way harder to ignore. This quote really hits the nail on the head. If your risk officer asks about an agent that's touching regulated data right now, your answer is probably a frantic forensic reconstruction across a half-dozen vendor systems. You're out there painfully piecing together a story from incomplete logs scattered all over the place. Let's be real, that's not governance. That is just hoping nothing breaks. Moving right along to Section 2, identity is just a name tag and the coming compliance wave. So that quiet state we just talked about, yeah, it's abruptly ending. Right now, vendors are basically selling you a vendor identity. They hand your agent a credential or a service account and just drop it in a directory. But guys, that's literally just slapping a name tag on them at the front door. It completely misses what it actually takes to govern software. AGTP identity, on the other hand, isn't just a name. It's a home. It's an entire substrate that makes an agent legible, reachable, and actually governable to anyone interacting with it. Because a true home has history, it has rules, and it has verifiable addresses. Which brings us to Section 3, giving agents a real home, using protocol primitives as property. To solve this sprawling mess, your agents need a true architectural home. And AGTP does this by carrying essential properties as protocol primitives. Let's break down what that actually means. AGTP translates the physical concept of a home into strict protocol rules. So every agent gets a birth certificate, which we call a genesis document. This is a permanent, cryptographically signed origin record. Next up, instead of just some random IP address, the agent gets a canonical address, or agent ID. This is a 256-bit hash of that Genesis document. It's permanent, meaning it survives any server move. And finally, the rules of the house. This is the authority scope. These are strict, enforced declarations of what the agent is actually allowed to do. But a home also needs to reflect what's happening right now, right? So AGTP uses a separately resolvable manifest for the agent's current state, showing its capabilities and trustees. Then you have the kept history. Every single consequential interaction produces an attribution record. We're talking cryptographically signed, verifiable logs that align perfectly with RFC 9162 and SCITs. And finally, you have the neighborhood. Agents operate in specific governance zones, like Zone U GDPR. This actually keeps your agents in compliant jurisdictions, and it's enforced by the infrastructure itself, not just by crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Now, just like a physical house needs a way for people to find it, agents need discoverability. Enter the Agent Name Service, or ANS. Think of this as the DNS equivalent for AI agents. It acts like a trusted phone book. So when you do a capability query, it returns ranked, cryptographically signed results, which means agents can natively discover each other across entirely different organizations. You no longer need some messy, bilateral integration into every single vendor's closed proprietary marketplace. And look, if we're building a home, we absolutely need a front door for visitors. That's exactly where tools like Element come into play. Element is essentially the very first agent browser for AGTP. It takes all of that incredibly complex back-end cryptography and beautifully renders the agent's identity as a clean, human-readable visual profile. So compliance officers, regulators, or even just curious users can visit your agent and instantly understand its skills, its permissions, and its history. It basically turns a piece of back-end code into a recognizable citizen.
Okay, Section 4, the AGTP advantage, moving from chaos to protocol-native reality. What's really fascinating here are the concrete operational benefits you unlock once this foundation is in place. You're basically transitioning from a massive guessing game to a queryable reality. You get a real inventory that updates in 60 seconds because revoked agents just drop from the index instantly. You get a real structural operational map. You get a real signed audit trail that composes across entire organizations, meaning you are no longer the bottleneck for your own audits. It's a total game changer.
Let's zoom in on that real scope enforcement for a second. Here's how it mechanically works. Step 1. The AGTP protocol itself parses the authority scope on every single request. Step 2. The wire outright refuses to carry any request that exceeds that declaration. And Step 3. Any overscope is caught before the application even runs. This is huge because it completely neutralizes application-level bugs. Your agent literally cannot accidentally do something outside of its authorized authority. It's stopped dead at the wire.
Finally, Section 5, preparing for future audits and the cost of waiting.
Listen, this foundational infrastructure is not just some nice-to-have feature. It is an absolute, unavoidable necessity for the looming regulatory landscape. Just follow this timeline. Say you deploy agents in 2024 or 2025. Well, by 2026, the EU AI Act enters full enforcement, and ISO 42001 audits are going to be standard in procurement. Fast forward to 2031, and you'll be audited on a decade of obligations. The agents you're deploying right now will face strict, inevitable audits, and you're going to have to answer for them using whatever substrate they were built on. If that substrate is just code dropped in a container, those audits are going to be an absolute nightmare. But if it's AGTP, your answers are just simple queries against a verifiable protocol log.
The reality is, the cost of switching substrates later compounds incredibly fast, but the cost to start right now, it's minimal. The IANA port 4480 is officially reserved for the AGTP protocol. It runs with mutual TLS out of the box, the Python reference implementation is completely open source, and the first agent registries are literally already live. Every single piece you need to bring your agents home already exists today. So the crucial point to take away from this explainer is perfectly summed up right here. A home is where you live, more than what you are called. True identity requires verifiable history, concrete rules, and actual jurisdictional governance. That is infinitely more powerful and necessary than just handing a piece of software, a credential, and a name tag. I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought regarding your own enterprise deployments. Are your agents safely and traceably housed? Or are they just squatting in someone else's data center, ticking away, just waiting to trigger your next massive audit failure? It's time to bring your agents home. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.